This is the install video for our 10mm and 45 extensions. The +3 and 45, it actually is a +5 and 10mm, and a +1 for either 45 or 10. The set screws inside of these will already be installed. You'll need to put on some Loctite. We do sell some on our website for if you don't have any, but it's very easy to get some medium strength Loctite or thread locker at any local hardware store. Kind we use and sell is Loctite number 243. You just need a little drop of that to take off your stock base plates, because they will not fit inside of the magwell due to the stock plate being the size and shape of the frame and not able to fit inside of a magwell. So it's not that we're making you buy an extra plate just to run it. There's an actual reason for it. We design our magwells to funnel the mag into the frame with as seamless a transition as possible, which means there's not a large edge here. There's a very slight edge, just a little bit, but not enough to catch your mag. Where if it was designed in order to work with the stock mag plate, you'd have this large flat all the way around, so the funnel would be completely useless, making it a grip enhancement and not an actual magwell. So in order to make a magwell work, you'll also need to change out the plates. Simply push in that locking plate and then push the mag plate forward and completely remove that locking plate. Same thing, so that is the 45. This one is 10mm, same thing. Push in the locking plate and remove it. This is one of our old style mag extensions for the 45 and 10mm. They do work great still. The only reason we are changing the design is because if you drop these on concrete with our back locking plate, it does have a weak point back here that they start to crack out if you drop them repeatedly. 90% of our customers don't have an issue with that, but there is a percentage of law enforcement and people that do heavy duty training that have that happen. So we decided to beef up the design. The new design locks in with 2 set screws in the front of the rails instead of the back, so that allows for a much stronger back plate, not having the small back plate that can crack out. It's fully supported in the back, so when the mag hits the ground and comes backwards, it has a much stronger surface there. So if you're running our old plates and are switching to our new ones, simply take out the screws and do that. Now the 45s and 10s, you'll see have this indent in the front of the mag. And on the inside here, you'll see this large indent on the inside. And that's tight, sharp surface there can actually grab the front of the follower as it goes into the extension body, and with all the spring pressure pushing against it, it can actually jam the follower. So if you ever have that happen, it's because you haven't modified that section. I've heard of people taking just pliers or vice grips and pinching that flat. What I've always done is either take a Dremel or a file and file it flat. So if you are wanting to run our +3s or +5s for the 45 or 10, you will need to modify that. On the +1s, the follower obviously can't go all the way into that body because the follower is actually taller than that. So it's not a problem on those. This is not done enough. There's still quite a bit of a flat there. So I'm not going to completely do it in the video just for time's sake, but do make sure that when you look down there that that is not sticking up enough that it can capture that. On this mag, I've already filed it smooth. You can see there's maybe just a little nub sticking up. This mag, same thing. I believe I used a Dremel on these, considering they're a little ugly. Same thing on this mag. This one, not sure if I used a Dremel or a file, but there's just a little bit hanging up there, but not enough to actually grab the follower itself. So make sure you do that if you are running the longer extensions. For the shorter extensions, you don't need to worry about that. But remember, when you are installing these, to put on some Loctite, because the way these work is you will put the screws in, slide the mag body on, and then back the screws out enough to capture these rails. We've had a few people try to figure it out without watching the videos, and they're sliding it on but not doing anything else with the screws and wondering why their mag extension is sliding off. Well, it's because you have to make sure you back out the screws, otherwise nothing is capturing your extension. So take your Loctite. This vial's already been used a few times, not sure if there's anything in it. Appears to be either all dry or empty. It might be it must be all dry. This one is 242. The reason why it is this light blue rather than a dark blue is because we've had this bottle in the shop for many years. As you can tell, it is a little dirty, but just a small drop. I don't believe it loses its strength sitting around this light color, but it's possible. I know the new Loctite is very dark, rich blue, where this is a lighter blue. That is actually a little bit much Loctite. You don't need very much at all. What you'll see is when I put this in, you always want to go to the left first till you feel it drop in that first thread. Tighten all the way down till it's underneath the surface, just like that. But you see how much Loctite came up to the surface. If that does happen, try to wipe some away because you don't need that much, and that'll get on your magazine and could get down into the spring if it's left alone. This one's a little bit less. Turn to the left till you feel it drop. Tighten all the way down. See, that one got much less above the surface, barely any at all. All right. Then take your spring, push it all the way down so that it's underneath the surface, and then you want to go from the back of the mag forward. And if it's not super tight on the mag body, you'll see it pop back like that. That's just because the spring pressure is pushing it back. So now you take your wrench and you want to back it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 turns is usually what you want. You want it to where the screw is just over the surface there, just barely sticking up. It's hard to see it. So that's about perfect. That way it is completely capturing that rail. Don't need to stick up too much, but just enough to where it grabs there. So there is this shelf here that protects this screw, the head and everything, but then that rail is right behind it there. Just a little bit of movement on here. Every mag is a little bit different. Most mags are pretty tight. This one has just a little bit of movement. Not a big deal. So that is the +1. The +3, do the same thing. A little bit of Loctite on there. So that didn't quite go in right. It's a little bit tight there, so you want to make sure you get it to fall in the hole so that it goes in tight. These are form tapped holes, which are very strong threads, but when you form tap, it's drilled oversized, but the tap actually pushes a groove into the material. But when it does that, it also leaves behind a alternate groove. So you kind of got like this secondary groove in between the threads that if you don't line it up right, sometimes you can get into that and try to cross thread. And with these small screws, you definitely don't want to do that. So this spring is nice and long. The 45s, we haven't tried our extra coil springs on them. The follower is a different length on that attachment point, where the 10mm has the same attachment as the 9mm, so our extra coil springs do work on the 10mm. If you aren't using the extra coil springs, we do recommend stretching it out a few inches so that it sticks out nice and long. They will compress back down over time, but you shouldn't have any issues with the slide locking back for a little while at least. There's never any feeding issues with the stock springs, but just sometimes the slide won't want to lock back. Sometimes that can be fixed just by removing the detent there. Sometimes you need some extra strength in your springs. Now these screws are straight with the mag body on the +3 extensions, but they are straight with the extension on the +1. So what that means is when you're lining up this wrench, you want it straight with the mag body on this one in order to get into that screw hole, where on the +1 you want it straight with the extension itself. The reason why this one is having to get backed out so much more is because I threaded it in further under the surface than it needed to be when I put the screw in. And so it's taking longer to back it out. So when you do assemble it, you don't want those super deep as you're putting them in. So there's just the head is popped up just a little bit. Just a little bit of movement there. Like I said, so this one, the screw is straight with the extension going up, so not the mag body like that. So something to notice, just to help you line up the threads in the hole. This is the Poseidon design on the long slide 10 millimeter. The stock porting is the first two ports there. I opened those up a little bit and added a third port, and also added side porting on there so that it performs much better than the stock porting. There it is. That is the install video for the extensions for the 10 millimeter and 45.